grandson is racing.
Welcome, race fans, to another episode of the Rubbin' Is Racing Daily Fantasy NASCAR Show. We have all your action from the ISM Connect 300 from Loudon, New Hampshire for race 2 of the playoffs. Stages this week are going to be at laps 75, laps 150, and then we race all the way to the finish.
Interesting fact here is that out of the last 10 races, Toyota has won 7 of them, with Hambone winning a few months back at the Overton's 301.
Well, kids, we should have sunny skies and temperatures near 90 when we go racing this Sunday, September 24th at 2 p.m. Eastern on NBC Sports Network. All right, Liehr, I know it's early morning and we're outside of practice 2 and 3, but we've got to pick some burning rubber picks as you're sipping on the coffee. Who do you have to burn some rubber for us? Well, first of all, do the honors. I can't believe I even forgot. So what happens when you film at 7 in the morning?
Sometimes when you're up before the sun gets up. Burning rubber playoff style New Hampshire, baby!
Nice. I liked it. Way to get the playoff style in there. All right, brother. Who do you have to burn some rubber for us this week?
Man, I'm going to be going with one of the guys that's just been very, very consistent this season. And at the first part of the season, I know all of us were just like, whoa, where is this guy coming from? But I'm going to go with the 42 team. As you know, like we said, they've had a very, very strong season. It's basically been back and forth between him and Truex all year, but they currently sit second in the points. Like I said earlier this summer, they surprised us all by winning some races. But back at the Overton's 301, Larson started 39th and had a second place finish, and he was just a place differential beast. This week's going to be a tad bit different, as he'll be starting from the second position on Sunday. As we all know, Larson likes to run the high side of most all types of tracks, regardless of what type it is. Obviously, except for the road course races where they don't, have walls. But basically, he's going to have his foot on the accelerator, as much as he can, because he likes to ride close to that wall. But they laid down that grip agent. I don't know. Have they come out with a specific name for this stuff yet? Like I know it was
the PJ1. Like
there's, I've heard a handful of acronyms on what it's called, but they've laid that grip agent down again, which should benefit the 42 car, especially in with Larson's preferred style of racing. But even though they laid that down, yesterday we saw that Jimmy Johnson and Chase Elliott, both Hendrick cars, lose control and hit the wall, and both of them having to roll to backup cars. But Larson has some pretty good stats here at New Hampshire. He has 7 races under his belt. He does have 0 wins, so obviously he would like to start marking some of these tracks off of his bucket list with his great season this year. But 0 wins, 3 top 5s, and 4 top 10s. He has led a very, very minimal amount of laps here, only 15, which may scare some fantasy owners, plus the threat of obviously having Rowdy, Hamlin, Truex, and Harvick all starting up towards the front as well. But this team wants to notch a win and keep pace with the hottest team, which is obviously the number 78. It has been one of those 2 cars basically all season long. I don't see anything that would change my mind from that as far as, being Truex and Larson. This week his cost is $9,500 and is the 6th highest on the board. So you get some value there in Larson being the 6th highest costing driver this week, even though he's starting second and he's been one of the best cars in the Cup Series. But my advice is to plug and play him no matter what situation. Although some may say he might be a quote unquote risky play because he's only led a handful of laps here, and he doesn't have a dominating performance here, but with that place differential beast mode that he had the Overton's 301, he's going to be just a little bit different style this weekend, starting from second. So, but I fully expect that him and that team can stay up there with the big boys, and I definitely have him leading laps on Sunday. Between him and the 78, both of those guys, make a lot of sense to me. What do you think?
No, I agree with you on the 78. The problem I have with Larson is kind of a question that I want to ask you. Like, are you concerned about playing Larson just on the fact that traditionally he's not the best short track driver, right?
Yeah.
Like, this isn't something that he excels at. I know he's been good this year, but between that and the fact that he doesn't lead laps with him starting second, I don't know. I'm more apt to go with Truex or my burning rubber pick coming up in a second, but I'll let you defend yours real quick. So, like, do either one of those things bother you about Larson this week?
Well, sure, yeah, that's definitely a valid point. When you think of Larson, you think of big, larger track speed that you can hang out and actually use the aerodynamics of the car, because this is more of those. This short track is obviously one of those that's more bumping and banging, and it's not really about the aerodynamics of the car. But dude, his race mentality has definitely increased at these different types of tracks. He's definitely have exposure on these types of tracks. So I think that, him and his team are going to have a great game plan put together for this weekend. And I don't know, I'm one of those types where I think I'm going to be starting lineups. In my personal opinion, you're going to have to at least have maybe 2 of the top 5 guys, and going up a little bit higher to Harvick. But I'm going to be rolling a lot of, Truex Larson this week, I think. Also, Truex Kyle Busch. But I definitely, in my opinion, I think Larson's going to have the smallest of the ownerships of all of them, just because of that common, nomenclature of, oh, he's not a short track racer.
Oh.
Plus, when people look at the stats and say, oh, God, he's only led 15 laps here, he's not going to be a dominator, especially starting from second. So I don't know, man. I just got a feeling that the 42 is going to come out this week, because they want, that pressure of keeping up with the 78, because, they've had a great season, man, and they want to stay with that 78 in order for them to win the championship this year. So pressure's going to be on them, and usually Kyle Larson does pretty good under the pressure. So
yeah, here's the thing though. If you're going to roster Kyle Larson, you need to know that your lineups are going to be drawing dead for at least the first stage, right? Because that he's a high line runner at these short tracks, and that high line will not come in until the PJ1 starts to wear off, right? And they can't race low, and then he'll finally move up to the top line and should be all right then. But just so know, I think your arguments are right that like that's going to temper expectations and ownership on Larson. But I would rather go with the person that I think dominated this season that you left off of your little grouping, and that is Rowdy, until the very end when you mentioned him there. I like Rowdy this week, and he's my pick to burn some rubber. I know he's 10,700, but out of the last 5 races at Loudon, Rowdy has a win, 2 top 5s, and he was required to be on the winning fantasy lineup 4 out of 5 of the last races. And I'm pretty sure it's actually 5 out of 5, but I wasn't quite sure about one and didn't have data for it, so I went with a 4 out of 5. So, I mean, Rowdy just has a history of not only starting close to the top but being required, but is required to be on your lineup here. He's also a huge dominator at this track, and starting on the pole, I have him leading at least close to the first segment. Don't forget, last week he was a dominator and required to be on your lineup. Even with the pit malfunction that caused him to fall back, he was still in the winning lineups. Liehr, your thoughts on Rowdy this week?
I mean, there's not really much for me to add to your statement there about Rowdy. I mean, every week Rowdy's going to be at play. It just depends on where they're at and where he's starting at, and obviously he's on the pole this weekend, and that's kind of been, as of late, man, that's been commonplace for that team. And you can tell that he's starting to feel the pressure of wanting to get up there and get a win, because obviously he does have a chance to be a dominator tomorrow. I just don't know if I don't think he's going to win the race, in my opinion. That team's just still, he could drive the wheels off of that thing, and there are just so many different variables that have to go right in order for them to take the checkered flag. And obviously they've proven that even switching, teams with Daniel Suarez for their crews, it still hasn't helped them out. So I don't know, man. In my personal opinion, I do agree with you. I think that Busch will lead some laps tomorrow, get some dominator points for sure. But I'm just not going to be quite as high on him as probably the field is, just because I feel like there's other cars. As far as money-wise and just how it's playing out in my mind tomorrow, I just don't see him completely being the dominator that you need at that price tag.
If his practice speeds are anything like what they did at qualifying, you're going to be. You should be probably 100% on him unless you're designing fades. But that's just my standpoint. And my lineups, I know you kind of talked that you were kind of basically going Truex and Larson. I'm basically going Rowdy Truex to start off most of my lineups. And the pivots that I like off of that in the other burning rubber guys would be the Harvick play. Anything else other than that? Larson. I try to combine the two. Larvick. That's the play, kids. The play is Larvick. It's Larson Harvick. You heard it here first. Do you have anybody to add the burning rubber segment?
Yeah, I mean, we obviously have to have the conversation about the number 22 team.
Oh, yeah.
In my personal opinion, I mean, it's free square. You got to do it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I don't know how you cannot.
Well, I mean, starting from the back of the pack with no qualifying time, most people are going to roster Logano. Once again, unless you're design fading, that's kind of what you have to do. And when you roster Logano with two of the studs, it puts you in a tight place if you're going to try to buy up for another one. And so you can see sort of where the build of all the lineups are going to go this week. And we're back in that uncomfortable territory where unless you're being foolish, you have to start the car that didn't qualify.
Yeah. Well, and on top of that, too, he had issues last time we were here at the Overton's 301, and I think he finished like 37th or something crazy like that. So, that may hinder some people from playing him, too, and kind of the streak that he's been on. People might say, well, I'm just going to roll something else. So, but in my opinion, you got to have the 22. There's no doubt.
Oh, I mean, let's assume he just makes 10 positions up, right? Yeah. Which is minimal for that car, right? Going from 40 to 30. He's going to 39 to 29. He's going to be.
I mean, this is basically Larson the last time we were here.
Yeah, no, I mean, dude.
I don't know if I see him getting second necessarily, but, I mean, it's.
In all reality, that car is, even on its worst day, if we don't include wreck or technical problem, that car is on a worst day a top 20 car, right? Yeah. And is going to gain 19 spots of place differential. And that's just the reality of that play. Sorry, early morning, or I would have led off the show with that. With the free square on Logano. What are your opinions on his teammate Kez? I've heard some good buzz about Kez this week, and he's not starting super high up there. You can get some place differential out of him.
Yeah, I mean, I like Keselowski. He's one of my favorite drivers. That might piss some people off because they think he's a whiny crybaby sometimes, which I tend to agree at some points. I mean,
well, I think that's just because they don't know you, Liehr. If they knew you, they would know you're part whiny crybaby too. No, I'm just playing with it.
No, I just like him because he's a nice dude, and we've talked to him a handful of times, and very approachable guy. So not all the guys in NASCAR are like that. So, but I mean, Keselowski starting 13th. I mean. But that's the thing is you have to pick and choose your drivers because that's a top-end driver as far as salary goes, and there's a lot to pick from this weekend. And I just don't see in my race vision him. He may have he may get a top 5, but at that price, I don't see him leading laps, dominating laps, which then basically eliminates him as a play in my mind this weekend.
See, I'm worried that they're going to get on an interesting pit strategy for the second half of the race, right? Once we get done with stage 2, that's the type of team that'll get on a little bit different strategy to lead laps, and that's why, I just think I need to own a little bit of him. I don't know. I just have this gut feeling. I have a Liehr feeling, a Rain Man feeling, if you will. That if I don't own Kez, he's going to do me dirty this week. But speaking of doing you dirty, it's time to get some value guys. Who are those value guys that are going to pan out for us when we need to save some money this week? Liehr.
Well, I'm actually going with the only female on the circuit. Danica's officially been relieved of her duties, at Stewart-Haas Racing, and is obviously seeking a new competitive ride for 2018. She's had some opportunities this year for some top 10s, which she has done, but she's always seems to find to be the root cause of, issues. And hopefully this is not one of those situations this weekend. Patrick has the pressure on her now to come and out and basically, produce some results. She's got to do that if she's seeking what she wants to seek, because, you've heard her. She says, well, I don't want to, be in a car and just fill the field. But at some point, Danica, it's like, I understand that, you want to get a win. You want to be one of the only drivers to have a win on the Indy circuit and also on the Cup circuit, which that would be awesome. And, obviously to be the first female to do so. But it's definitely a tall task. And you're asking a team with elite equipment and all that to really take a risk and take a chance, on a really big question mark. But back to the task at hand, for fantasy-wise, last time we were here in July, she started 30th and finished 13th. She was my value play then, and she's my value play again. She was 6,200 at the Overton's 301. This week she's very similar and has hardly made any salary changes during the year, but she's 6,100, and she starts 27th, which is another sweet spot for her and this team. She has 9 starts here, 0 top 5s. Obviously, no need to really tell you about that, but just thought I'd throw that out there. 0 top 10s and 4 top 20s, which is just under 50% of her races that she's had here. She's also led 9 laps, which is one of the tracks that, she's led laps on, which that's kind of rare for her. Will she win? No, she's not going to win this weekend. But is she capable of producing a top 15 car again? Yeah, you betcha. I think that she definitely has an opportunity to do that, especially if we get some carnage here, because obviously you guys saw, if you haven't, these guys, it does not take much. If they lose that grip on that car, they were going straight into the wall. And it doesn't take much to damage these cars anymore. They are very brittle, really. It's like the cars we drive around. A lot of them aren't hardly sheet metal anymore. A lot of them are plastic, and, it doesn't take much. So, but, the bodies on these things are kind of a fiberglass, but it doesn't really take much for that to forgive into a concrete barrier wall. So if they lose it, we could have Indy 2.0 this weekend if that grip agent doesn't work like it's supposed to do so. But at her cost there's no other driver with the same place differential, the good equipment that she has, and just the opportunity in reality and in fantasy. I'd love to be all over Danica this weekend, because she's definitely going to exceed your expectations.
Yeah, and we've already seen Jimmy and Chase Elliott thrash their cars. They're already on backup cars just by stepping outside of the PJ1 by a little bit. They slammed their cars into the wall and are without. I like the Danica play. She fits Poppa's paradigm this week. The problem with her is always whether or not she's going to get caught up. Excuse me.
Yeah, finish. Where is she going to finish?
And you know what? The rumor has it that she might be transferring to Roush Fenway. They might be firing up a third car again. And if so, that would be so adorable, because then we could pair her with my value pick and on the same team and make the first husband and wife racing team. That's right, kids. I'm running Mr. Gut Rot himself, Sticky Ricky at 7,300. Look, kids, he's starting 24th. He has the worst starting position of any of the drivers that are actually still in the playoffs, and he's terribly frustrated with his car. He doesn't think it's fast enough. It's not handling right. But we got 2 practices for Roush Fenway to figure this out and to get Sticky Ricky dialed in. So what I want you to do is I want you to pay attention to practice 2, practice 3, and if Roush Fenway gets Sticky Ricky dialed in like I think they will, this car has nowhere to go but up. Look at his track history here. The guy finishes always in the teens. Well, not always. There's a 30th place finish that I would forget about. But other than that, this is a teens car. That gives you almost 10 plus place differential points. And he's the last car that you can afford and the cheapest car that is in the playoffs this year. I like Sticky Ricky this week. I don't even have a problem if you want to pair him and the future wifey together and roll them. I think they're both great value plays. Liehr, what are your thoughts on the couple and playing one or both of them possibly this week?
Well, first, I think that would be awesome if Roush Fenway brought back a third car and put Danica in it, because it definitely would be one of those things where it would make history if they end up getting married. I think that Sticky Ricky's definitely in play this weekend. I've done a handful of lineups already, and I've seemed to find myself gravitating towards the number 17 quite a bit. Just because it's, like you talked about, it's a salary play, but it's a guy that's obviously in the playoffs and fighting to stay alive. So, and like you said, the stats don't lie. And, out of his last 6 races, he's got a 17th, a 13th, 10th, and a 14th place finish, and a 9th back in 2014. So, he's definitely one of these types of tracks that he likes these short tracks. I usually associate him with more of like a Bristol, where it's got more banking and they can keep the speed up more. Because, when it comes to Ricky and these flatter tracks, and I usually don't, give him the benefit of the doubt. But this is a different track in a different situation, and you always have to look at each weekend from where it is. So I definitely love Sticky Ricky this weekend, and I will have some exposure on for sure.
Anybody else in the value tier that you're really on this week that we haven't talked about yet? I mean, for me, dude, I'm looking at Suarez starting way late. I mean, in the same equipment.
Yes.
Like, other than the 2 plays we've talked about, the RCR cars, as always, once again, almost all of them poorly qualified, including the Ty Dillon play as well. Like, those are the plays I'm looking at for value this weekend. You got anything else?
Yeah, you got Ty Dillon starting 30th, McDowell starting 31st. But that's kind of, in my mind, even McDowell's kind of, I don't know. By the way, we have to talk about that real quick.
No. I am sending them to the garage, so we'll get there in a second.
Okay. I think that's kind of where you cut it off, except for Joey Logano, because at this track, folks, I mean, we're talking about laps upon laps down, and if that is the case, that means that those pump plays, they can't make up any positions unless we're talking about carnage. If we're talking about 1 or 2 wrecks, and most times it's green flag racing, it's going to be hard for those guys to make up positions. They got to stay on the lead lap. So I would say McDowell's kind of my cutoff there. Like I said, except Logano starting in 39th. But no, I'm all over the Suarez play starting 25th. I mean, that's a no-brainer. But then, one that I'm, probably going to be avoiding like the plague is David Reagan starting 21st. That's too high. But then, I mean, you got kind of the normal people there.
Right. The problem for me was most of them were starting.
Though, like Matt, the DiBurrito, he's still kind of, it's a little high for me too.
Well, it looks like a lot of these teams, in my opinion, have shipped it in for next season. They're focusing on getting cars together for next season, like they're
sponsorships,
right, and working on sponsorships, and that honestly is what worries me about Michael McDowell this week. Last weekend we saw for the first time ever he didn't move forward in the field, and I'm wondering if that's
after
after it was announced that he will no longer be in that ride, and that really worries me about playing McDowell this week. And you know what? It's time to go to the garage and send someone to the garage. This is a segment where we get to talk trash on some drivers. Maybe it's on NASCAR, maybe it's on DraftKings, or in the case of me this week, and I know Liehr's in agreement here, I'm sending Levine Family Racing to the garage again. What in the world are you thinking? This is ridiculous. You're going to put Casey Kane, who can't drive top-notch equipment and finish in the top 10 on a regular basis, and you're going to think that he's going to take the 95 to some sort of paramount glory while you kick Michael McDowell to the curb, who has actually taken your subpar ride and made it a team's car.
Yes.
I do not understand this move whatsoever. If it's all about sponsorship and that's it, then NASCAR seriously has a problem with sponsors and getting sponsors on rides. And to the point where it worries me for the future of the sport. If we're going to start curb checking legit drivers that have proven themselves in subpar equipment to just get a name that has a contract with it. Like, everybody was kind of okay as long as it was Paul Menard because that money was huge. But now that we're doing it with Casey Kane, I'm starting to get a little bit worried. Your thoughts, Liehr?
Yeah, I'm not going to go into too much detail because, I mean, I'll just foreshadow it now. Casey Kane is my going to the garage. So kind of ironic that, we're both talking about the two drivers here. But, yeah, it's frustrating, man. And this is coming from a Casey Kane fan when I was started getting into NASCAR when he was with the number 9 Dodge. But Kane is just he's just an average driver now. He's not, what he used to be back in the day. And yeah, I have no idea what you're thinking because he's in top, you've got Joe Gibbs Racing and then you've got Hendrick. And he's been in Hendrick equipment for how long? And he's just been subpar in that equipment. And I don't know what in the world they think that he's magically going to come into the 95 and somehow bring this, aura about him to all of a sudden now the equipment's going to work better than it did with Michael McDowell. That's just not the case. I mean, yeah, the driver does have something to do with results, but really in essence, it boils down to the equipment you have because without the equipment, there is nothing. And I saw them on social media and I even responded to them and, they said, we are one of the teams that are on smaller budgets with a one-car team, and we actually produce top 20 results. And I responded with that was, well, a lot of that too is Michael McDowell,
Right.
not just your equipment. And I don't know. I hope that McDowell lands something. I'm crossing my fingers and hoping that it is Stuart Haas Racing.
Oh, that would be
race for
so
the number
cool.
10. But at the same time, and I'll talk about it in my roll-up here with Kane, but it has a lot to do with money and sponsorships. And that's, unfortunately, you would love that it has to do with talent and the type of person it is, but that doesn't mean anything.
Well, I'll just say this much, man. I'm not a sponsor of a huge company, but if I was, I'd rather take an underdog that's proving himself than a guy that's had all the opportunities in the world and keeps crapping the bed. That's just my personal opinion. All right, go ahead and give us the breakdown on why you're sending Kane to the garage, bro.
Kane starts 9th this week. It's going to be a tough call for fantasy owners, I think. His stats here are below average at best with 27 starts. He does have 1 win in 2012, 3 top 5s and 10 top 10s. His average start is 11.7 with an average finish of 17.1. So clearly, this historical data here shows that he finishes a lot higher than where he starts. But his cost this week is $7,400, which is one of the lowest that Kane averages, during the season. But I'm not sure how he will react now behind the wheel that he secured that ride for next year in LFR. But it does have to take the tension off him, obviously, knowing that, okay, now everybody knows I don't have to hide anything. While trying to get the 5 team to compete for a championship this season, which that's not going to happen. But I think that he knows he's getting, what he needs from the Hendrick Motorsports. He's going to go out and probably just fade into oblivion on Sunday in the field. In my opinion, he just starts too high. And that team hasn't shown any speed all season, really. And that, obviously the win at Indy was lucky. It was, by attrition. Otherwise, this team would not be in the playoffs whatsoever. So, yeah, fade Kane this weekend.
True story. I'm not on Kane, and I know I sent Levine Family Racing to the garage, but also another driver that I'm not on this week will be Eric Jones. And it's not that I don't like the kid, but he's the only car not in the playoffs to qualify in the top 10. He's qualified 8th, which, if I'm being honest, is about the ceiling where I have him finishing the race. And I just don't see him paying off at his salary. It's just a play that lacks upside, in my opinion. Just an easy fade. Your thoughts, Liehr, real quick?
I love Jones. Yeah, he's definitely impressed this season, man. He's got talent.
For sure.
But like you said, it's going to be hard to put a guy like that on your roster starting 8th, specifically too, because he's cost is $7,800. So it's kind of hard to roster a guy like that. But at the end of the day, you're going to need somebody with place differential. So in my opinion, I'm right there with you. Could he get a top 5? Yeah, sure. I mean, he definitely could. He did wreck here like 40 laps in on the Overton's 301. but not saying that he'll do that here. But even if he does get a top 5, I think there's other people out there that, because he's obviously not. I don't think he's going to lead laps this weekend, but you never know. But in my opinion, I don't think he's going to. And even with just a little bit of place differential, the potential of, like, if I have to pick between Suarez and Jones, I'm going Suarez, because that guy's, if he gets a top 10 finish, that's, another 15 points that he's going to get in place differential. So, I definitely am right there with you.
All right, buddy. Do you have anybody that we've left off? I mean, we've talked a little bit about Harvick, Kez, Truex, of course, Larson, Rowdy. Like, is there anybody that we've left off that you have doing any damage this week before we wrap up the show?
I think we have to have the conversation. We have to mention it just because he is in the playoffs and he is starting in the top 5. But thoughts on the Wood brothers, Ryan Blaney?
Yeah, I'm going to fade him. And the reason why is not a 2-mile track or greater, and those are the tracks that Wood brothers usually shows up for and dominates. Other than that, I have him being too high qualified, and it's too risky in my opinion. Now, I'm going to concede that will carry extremely low ownership and will be smart. And I do love me some Blaney, but I don't know, man. It's just not the direction I'm going in this week. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I love Ryan Blaney too. Guy's funny. But no, I'm right there with you. He's, only got 4 starts here, but he most times just basically finishes where he starts. So in this situation or scenario, if he gets a top 5 finish, I mean, that's definitely some good points for you. But the problem is his cost, because $8,000 it's a lot, and it kind of hamstrings you on what you can do with the rest of your lineup with the guys, with the dominators that you want to get. Because I'm right there with you. Surprisingly, I'm shocked that you didn't make him your going to garage pick, because I figured that's the kind of direction you were going. And I know you so well enough that I guarantee you that was at least a thought that crossed your mind.
Yeah, it was.
So, but no, I think that I'm right there with you. I think that if you have a little bit, he's definitely going to be a swerve play, and don't count him out. In my opinion, I'm at least going to have one exposure on Blaney for sure, if not a little bit more, just to leverage that ownership percentage. And you gotta make sure you guys go and check out the hot laps. Check out the practices today, because happy hour is going to be hugely important when it comes to averages. But Blaney was practicing in the top 5. There's really no good data right now as far as 10 plus laps averages, but at least they've got a car with top 5 speed so far. So I'm definitely going to have some exposure on Blaney.
No, the reason why I didn't send him to the garage is I thought that because of where he's starting and what that car is that it might make it makes mathematical sense to actually use him as a leverage play if that's what you want to do, right? Yeah. Like, and that's why I wasn't going to send that kind of car to the garage. Like, it's too good of a car with too good of potential, and he is one of those guys. The second you don't think he has potential to lead laps or to show up, he'll just hang it out there and start leading laps for some reason. Like, that's just who Blaney is. So that's why I didn't send him to the garage. But I think this.
And one other person I think we definitely need to talk about is 2 people, actually.
Okay.
Harvick and Kenseth.
Oh, dude, I'm glad you said the Kenseth thing, because we also need to mention Hamlin a little bit. So let's talk about Harvick, Kenseth, and Hamlin real quick. Out of those 3, like I think you're going to get lower ownership than you should on Hamlin and Kenseth this week. Hamlin has the potential to dominate this race and lead laps, and I think you may get him as, when we talk about the guys that could tear up this track, he may be the lowest owned that can actually dominate this track. I love Kenseth, love the Kenseth play, but part of me really, really wants to play Harvick, and the salaries are keeping me from being able to play the guys I want to, because really what I want to do is play three really expensive guys and then some of the mid-range guys, and you just can't do it. You have to value down, and I'm not comfortable doing that. So what are your thoughts on those 3, Liehr?
Well, I definitely Hamlin is, he won here in the Overton's 301, but tied for the most active leaders in wins here with 3. And there's quite a few guys that have 3 wins under the belt. I mean, you're talking Denny Hamlin, Kenseth, Jimmy Johnson, Kurt Busch, Ryan Newman also has 3 wins here. Yeah, I said it, Ryan Newman. But as far as it goes, I'm going a different direction this weekend. And, a lot of people are going to be on the Kenseth plate too, because they think, well, he's starting 10th and he's going to have place differential and he's going to get up there and lead some laps. But you got to stick with what works. And I'm sticking with Truex, Larson. I'll probably have some Harvick, definitely going to have some Kyle Busch. But Toyota.
Well, it just blows my mind, though, that you're, like, all about leveraging plays and getting low ownership on certain guys. But when it comes to the secondary Toyotas, you're just like, nope, never. Like, that's just...
Well, it's just... Well, the reason I say that is because I just want to... In this type of situation, specifically, I'm trying to get guys that I know that are probably going to perform and produce points, and then make the guys that make the difference in my separation are the other drivers.
Oh, dude, let's be clear. Hambone and Kenseth are both volatile as possible. And they're either lineup winners or lineup killers, and that's just the reality of when you roster those 2 Toyotas.
Yeah, so, and when it comes to this weekend, and specifically if you're watching the show and you're and congratulations to all you guys that are in the NASCAR championship for fantasy. It's elimination. So you want to be the most consistent that you can be, and get the most points that you can. And you probably want to roster the guys with the highest ownership percentage because, in elimination, you don't want to take the risk. You want to move on to the next round. So pick the guys that are the most consistent.
Yeah, I will tell you this much. In my opinion, in that Survivor, if Joey Logano isn't owned 100%, there are people in that tournament that have no idea what they're doing.
Right. But there's going to be one. There's going to be one.
It makes no sense, dude. They advanced like 80% of the field of it for this race. So, yeah, just free square it, kids, if that's the case. All right, kids. Well, I think that officially wraps up another episode of the Rubbin' Is Racing Daily Fantasy NASCAR Show. We wanted to thank you guys for tuning in as always. We got to get Liehr out on the road. He's adding a new member to the family. No, he didn't get the woman pregnant. He's going to pick up a dog and has to drive a couple hours to do that. So we got to get him on the road real quick. Congratulations, Liehr, on expanding your family. Let's win some money this week and have a safe drive, brother. Say your goodbyes.
No, I appreciate it, my man. Yeah, thanks, guys, for watching. Always appreciate it every single week. Make sure you like, comment, share. We appreciate it. And best of luck this weekend. Best of luck to my boys going out west, hitting up the LA Chargers.
Well, that's because they're going to Arrowhead of the West.
Right. But it should be a fun race tomorrow. I can't wait to watch it. I'll be flipping back and forth. I'm excited, man. It's going to be a good day. Going to go run up to good old Iowa and go pick up a boxer puppy. We're going to name him Hawkeye. And can't wait to surprise my son and see what his reaction is. And should be a good day, my man.
Well, man, I wish you the best and the safest of travels. As to the rest of you out there, safest of travels. And best of luck. Let's win some money this week, kids. Thanks as always for tuning in. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Have a great one, guys.
Burn some rubber this weekend, baby.